Hi, my name is Abhay Sista, and today I'm going to be talking about federated learning of deep learning models for prostate cancer segmentation. So a little about me. I'm a rising senior at Broadern High School, which is located in Ashburn, Virginia. I'm very passionate about machine learning and medicine, and that's why I'm currently doing research at Emory. And at school, I'm the president of Science Olympiad and speech and debate, and I've been doing tennis for about 10 years. So why prostate cancer? Prostate cancer is the second most common cancer in men around the world. With over 1.4 million new diagnoses every year, early detection is essential because it can lead to much better treatment outcomes. MRIs are one of the best tools we have for detecting prostate cancer. They're non-invasive and can pick up on subtle signs of disease. But interpreting prostate MRIs is not easy. Tumors can look very similar to normal tissue, especially in the early stages, and this makes things very tricky for expert radiologists, as seen in Figure 1. That's where AI comes in, especially deep learning ones like CNN and Transformers. They can analyze medical images much faster and more consistently than humans. The problem is training strong AI models requires large, diverse data sets from many hospitals, but different privacy laws like HIPAA and GDPR, this kind of data sharing is really limited. That means many AI models don't generalize well when tested on new or different data sets. And this is exactly the challenge that my research focuses on. By using federated learning, my goal is to fix these problems. After identifying the challenges with generalizing AI models for prostate cancer diagnosis, I found my research on one main question. How accurately can federated training improve the performance and generalizability of deep learning models for prostate cancer segmentation across multiple MRI datasets? So, I have to evaluate segmentation accuracy using centralized training, implement federated learning across institutions, compare centralized versus federated models, and overall improve the generalizability. This is my methods and materials. For this project, I used the PyChi dataset, which includes one MRI scans from 160 patients, and I used 80 from PyChi and 80 from another dataset called Prostate 158. All scans were labeled by expert radiologists. These scans include different types of MRI images: T2 weighted for high resolution anatomy, DWI for tracking water movement in tissue, ADC maps for gouging tumor aggressiveness, and DCE for analyzing blood flow within lesions. The model was trained using public federated learning weights over 50 epochs with a batch size of 8. On this slide, you can see two important parts of my workflow. On the left, the image shows my pre-processing pipeline, which helped clean, format, and normalize the MRI data. This step ensures that all images are consistent before training and also applies augmentation to improve the model's robustness. I made sure that all MRIs were the same intensity values, same resolution, and also this made sure the prostate gland was in the same spot every time, so the model does not get confused when it's training. On the right, you can see the Mon AI training pipeline I used. Mon AI is a specialized deep learning framework for medical imaging, and here it is structured how my model was trained, including data loading, transformations, model building, and evaluations. Next, I use a dynamic unit, which is not a normal unit, but this architecture actually is more flexible than a unit and has more parameters and makes it more efficient to segment prostates. Specifically, the encoder was a ResNet 34 backbone, which was pre-trained and used to extract important features from the input image. The decoder consisted of upsampling and skip connections, which helped to maintain spatial resolution and reconstruct detailed segmentation maps. I use the RELU as the activation function in hidden layers and sigmoid at the output to produce a binary segmentation map. Since there was a major class imbalance, with tumors being very small compared to the full prostate, I used a combination of dice loss and binary cross entropy to optimize the model. For optimization, I used Atom with a learning rate of 1e to the negative fourth and a small weight decay. In terms of experimental design, I compared three training strategies: a centralized model, which is a pooled data, federated model, which learns collaboratively across sites, and a local model, trained separately on each hospital dataset. Finally, this image illustrates a multi-branch feature extraction method. In this approach, the model takes inputs from different types of MRI images, like the T2 weighted scans and ADC maps, and processes them into through separate branches of the network. By analyzing both of these sources individually and then combining the extracted features, the model gets a more complete understanding of both prostate anatomy and tumor-specific signals. This helps improve the segmentation accuracy, especially in cases where a tumor may be subtle in a modality but clearer in another. And these are my results. Starting with figure 6, this is a T2 weighted MRI, which is one of the most commonly used sequences in prostate cancer diagnosis. In this image, the prostate gland is outlined in blue and the tumor region is shown in pink. The output was generated directly from the model's segmentation prediction. You can see how the model isolates the gland from the surrounding anatomy and tries to pinpoint the lesion. Moving on to figure 7, this is an apparent diffusion coefficient or ADC map. ADC values are used to understand tissue density. Tumors often restrict diffusion, so they appear darker and more defined in these scans. Finally, figure 8 is a cancer detection heat map. The output shows the probability that each pixel or voxel is cancerous. Together, these visualizations demonstrate how the model processes and interprets different types of MRI inputs. While not always perfect, they give a good overview of where the tumor might be located and how confident the model is in its prediction. Figure 10 shows the dissimilarity coefficient or DSC, and Figure 11 shows the Jacquard index, also known as the intersection over union. Both of these are standard metrics for evaluating segmentation models in medical imaging. The DSC measures the overlap between the predicted tumor region and the actual tumor outlined by a radiologist. A score of 1 would mean that model got exactly right, and the Jacquard index works similarly, but it's slightly stricter because it penalizes mismatched areas more heavily. In both figures, the scores are significantly below what's considered acceptable, especially for clinical use. They fall well short of a 0.7 to 0.9 range that we want to see for a reliable model. These low values were consistent across different data sets, which tells us the model was not able to generalize well to new data. Overall, these results suggest that the dynamic unit, at least in federated learning setup, isn't sufficient on its own for accurate tumor segmentation in prostate MRIs. Finally, figure 12 displays the average precision, or AP, which is another important metric in evaluating model performance, especially in cases where there's been a high imbalance between positive and negative classes. In this study, the model achieved an AP score between 0.8 and 0.9, which is relatively strong. It suggests that the model is reasonably good at identifying tumor regions overall. Even though it may not always localize within high precision, it's important to note that the AP is different from traditional accuracy. While standard accuracy is computed using a fixed threshold, usually 0.5, AP takes into account the model's predictions across all possible thresholds, which gives a more complete view of how well it performs. This makes AP particularly useful for segmentation problems like this one. So this metric shows some promise, but also reinforces that there's still a gap between research performance and clinical reliability. Discussion. Conclusion. Overall, the model has achieved only moderate accuracy and has struggled significantly when tested on external datasets, meaning it hadn't seen during training. This really emphasized how hard it is to make AI models that generalize well in medical imaging. There are a few major reasons for the model's underperformance. First, high variability in appearance of prostate tumors on MRI. Second, training dataset was relatively small and came from only few institutions. And third, there was a severe class imbalance. My results didn't support my hypothesis. In fact, centralized training, where all the data is pooled, performed better than my federated learning. These are my references. I'd like to thank my research mentors, the GLC team, and my peers. Thank you.